The more desperate you are, the less attractive you seem. The harder you try to win someone over, the more they pull away. But when you stop worrying about what people think, when you're not desperate at all, suddenly, you become way more attractive. Mark Manson breaks this down in his book Models. He says that not needing validation actually draws people toward you. A guy who's totally fine with the idea that someone might not like him, he's the one who ends up being the most likable. This book is a massive hit. It's one of the best-selling dating books on Amazon. Funny thing is, Manson originally self-published it, and it blew up purely through word of mouth. It completely changed the game in the dating world. See, old-school dating coaches used to teach men all these tricks: what to say, how to act, how to play the game. They told guys to fake confidence, act like an alpha, put on a show. But Manson flips that on its head. He says that the second you start acting like you don't care, you've already lost. Because real confidence doesn't come from pretending. It comes from being completely comfortable with who you are. Think about it. The most attractive people aren't out there desperately trying to impress anyone. They're just living their lives. They're comfortable in their own skin. They say what's on their mind. If they like someone, they don't play games. They just say so. And that kind of self-assurance? That's magnetic. Originally, Models was written for men, but women started picking it up too. Now, it's basically a Bible for dating and attraction. So, what exactly is desperation? Desperation is when you care more about someone else's opinion than your own. It's when you constantly seek approval, overthink everything, and try way too hard to be liked. Desperate people avoid conflict, go with the flow even when they don't want to, and end up blending into the background. They have no strong opinions, no personal boundaries, nothing that makes them stand out. Now let's flip it. Someone without desperation? They act based on their values. They prioritize their happiness. They're not rude, but they also don't bend over backward to please others. They have standards, they're comfortable saying no, and they make no apologies for who they are. Let's break this down with two examples. The desperate guy. James is that guy. The one who overinvests in a relationship to the point where he completely loses himself. He spends most of his paycheck on dates, rearranges his whole schedule to fit his girlfriends, and even when she treats him poorly, he just takes it, because he's terrified of losing her. At first, his devotion might seem sweet, but over time, his girlfriend starts losing respect for him. She gets bored, she starts seeing him as a pushover, and eventually, she walks away. Manson explains it like this: when you put too much into someone without valuing yourself, you actually push them away. Because deep down, people don't want a doormat. They want someone they can respect. The non-desperate guy. Jeff. Then there's Jeff. Jeff plays by a different set of rules. He doesn't invest his time and energy into someone until he actually knows they're worth it. If he's not feeling it, he doesn't force it. He just moves on. If a woman isn't interested in him, he shrugs and keeps living his life. He doesn't waste a second worrying about what could have been. Jeff isn't rude, but he also doesn't lower his standards. He values his time and only spends it with people who genuinely add something to his life. And women notice this. They can feel that he's not emotionally needy. Every decision he makes, every move he pulls, screams confidence. And that's attractive as hell. Why is desperation such a turn-off? Think about it. Back in prehistoric times, men didn't have Rolexes or Lamborghinis to show off their status. The only flex they had was maybe an extra chunk of meat to share. So, picture two cavemen. One is constantly seeking approval, always giving in, avoiding conflict, and changing his behavior to make others happy. The other? He stands his ground. He makes decisions for himself. If a woman isn't interested, he doesn't beg, he just moves on. Now, which one do you think had more options? Manson puts it like this: low-status men show desperation. High-status men don't. So, should you just fake it? Should you pretend to be uninterested? Should you carefully craft texts that make you look cool and detached? Number: Because the second you try to look nonchalant, you've already lost. If you're strategizing about how to come off as confident, you're already overthinking. If you're playing it cool but secretly freaking out about rejection, you're already giving someone else way too much power over you. The truth is, real non-desperation isn't something you fake, it's something you are. If you like someone, you just tell them. If you think they're attractive, you say it. If you want to grab coffee, you ask. And here's the kicker. People know when you're faking. You might think you're pulling off the whole cool and mysterious act, but trust me, people can sniff out insecurity from a mile away. Vulnerability, the key to real confidence. This is where vulnerability comes in. According to Manson, vulnerability is the ultimate sign of non-desperation. The guy who isn't desperate isn't afraid to put himself out there. He'll crack a joke, even if it might bomb. He'll voice his opinions, even if people disagree. He'll introduce himself to a stranger, even if it feels awkward. He'll tell someone he likes them, even if there's a chance they'll say no. And that takes guts. Because when you embrace vulnerability, you're basically saying, this is me. Like me, don't like me. I don't care. And that kind of confidence? That's rare. That's sexy. The people who embrace vulnerability don't hide who they are. They don't sugarcoat their opinions. If they suck at something, they own it. If they're having a bad day, they don't slap on a fake smile. And most importantly, they don't need everyone to like them. On the other hand, people who can't be vulnerable, they're always acting, always putting up a front, always trying to control how people see them. They avoid sharing opinions because they don't want to upset anyone. They play it safe. They pretend to be fine when they're not. They're constantly walking on eggshells, trying to make sure everyone likes them. But at the end of the day, who's really stronger? The guy who can be vulnerable, or the guy who's terrified of showing who he really is? So, let's stop overthinking. Let's stop being afraid of rejection. Let's drop the act and just be. Because that's what makes you genuinely attractive. And the best part? When you stop chasing, when you stop trying to impress, when you just live your life for you, that's when people start showing up.